They do this dance, and Mark Antony's like, go, put your hands on your mother's hip.
The Beckham family drama continues to escalate after firstborn son Brooklyn Beckham blasted his famous parents, David and Victoria, in a long and emotional Instagram message.
What if the most uncomfortable moment at Brooklyn Beckham's wedding wasn't caught on camera, but witnessed from the DJ booth? What if the person controlling the music saw something the guests tried to ignore, the family tried to bury, and the internet is only now starting to question? Because according to whispers circling online, the wedding night that was supposed to celebrate love may have exposed years of tension hiding behind one of the world's most polished celebrity images. We're talking about a moment so awkward, so unexpected, that people near the stage reportedly froze, unsure whether to clap, look away, or pretend it never happened.
And the wild part? The person closest to the scene wasn't a guest. It wasn't family.
It was the wedding DJ. Now imagine this. The music changes, the spotlight shifts, Brooklyn steps forward for what should have been his first dance with his wife, but something else happens.
Something no one rehearsed.
Something that left expressions on faces that couldn't be edited out later. Was it harmless? Misunderstood? Or the visible crack in a family image carefully built for decades? Because if what insiders are hinting at is even half true, this wasn't just a dance.
This was a moment that changed everything.
And this is where the story stops being a wedding memory and starts feeling like a moment people wish they could unsee.
Because the whispers didn't start online.
They started inside the room. Long before social media began dissecting clips, long before headlines began hinting at tension, guests at the Palm Beach wedding reportedly noticed something strange in the atmosphere.
Not loud. Not dramatic.
Just off. The kind of awkward energy you feel but can't explain. The kind where smiles look slightly forced and conversations feel carefully chosen. This was supposed to be the happiest day of Brooklyn Beckham's life. A luxury ceremony, celebrity guests, cameras everywhere, a picture-perfect setup for what the world assumed was a flawless family celebration. But according to people who were there, the mood behind the scenes didn't match the glossy image. There had already been quiet talk in the days leading up to the wedding. Rumors that things between Nicola Peltz and Victoria Beckham weren't exactly warm.
Questions about the wedding dress situation.
Observers noticed small details. Seating plans changed last minute, hushed conversations in corners, glances that seemed loaded with history.
Nothing explosive.
Just enough to make insiders wonder if something bigger was bubbling under the surface. And then came the reception.
The music was flowing. Guests were relaxed. Speeches had wrapped.
It was time for what everyone expected to be the emotional highlight of the night, Brooklyn and Nicola's first dance as husband and wife.
This is the moment every wedding builds toward. The cameras turn. The room quiets.
All attention shifts to the couple. But according to accounts later discussed by those present, that moment didn't go the way anyone thought it would. Because before Brooklyn could even settle into that spotlight with his bride, the flow of the evening shifted. The energy in the room changed. The plan, the carefully written, rehearsed plan, was suddenly not the plan anymore. And from his position near the stage, the DJ had a clear, uninterrupted view of everything.
Not from a guest's angle. Not from a distant table. But right there, feet away. Watching expressions, watching body language. Watching reactions that couldn't be hidden. People may by reportedly exchanged looks. Confused looks. The kind you give when you're not sure whether something is part of the program, or completely unexpected. Because what unfolded didn't feel like a rehearsed family moment. It felt spontaneous, unscripted, and slightly uncomfortable for more than just the couple. Brooklyn, who should have been sharing that dance with Nicola, suddenly found himself in a situation guests didn't fully understand. Nicola's expression, according to those watching closely, shifted from excitement to visible unease. Some guests looked down at their phones. Others looked at each other.
A few simply froze with polite smiles, unsure how to react.
It wasn't loud. It wasn't chaotic.
It was quiet discomfort. And sometimes, that's louder than anything else. What makes this moment even more intriguing is that this wasn't happening in isolation. This was happening after weeks of subtle tension people had already noticed.
After whispers about disagreements.
After stories about control, image, and boundaries that had followed the Beckham family for years but never fully surfaced. Suddenly, for a brief few minutes on that dance floor, all those whispers felt visible. The DJ didn't stop the music. The guests didn't interrupt. The night moved on. But the mood had changed. Because once a room full of people collectively feels something awkward, it's impossible to rewind the feeling.
You can continue the party. You can continue the smiles. But you can't erase what everyone just sensed.
And according to later conversations, that was the exact moment many realized this wedding wasn't just a celebration.
It was a pressure point.
A moment where private family dynamics accidentally stepped into public view. The kind of moment no one talks about openly, but everyone remembers clearly. And from the DJ booth, the person controlling the soundtrack of the night may have witnessed the clearest version of it all. By the time the music faded and the applause awkwardly filled the silence, something invisible had already shifted in the room. Guests returned to their seats, drinks were refilled, conversations restarted, but the tone had changed. What had felt like a fairy tale celebrity wedding now felt like a room full of people pretending they hadn't just witnessed something strangely personal play out in public.
And the person who noticed this shift more than anyone?
The DJ. From his position, he didn't just see the dance.
He saw faces, reactions,
micro-expressions people couldn't control. The kind of details cameras don't catch but human eyes never forget. According to later whispers from those close to the event, the DJ reportedly told friends that the discomfort in the room was impossible to ignore.
Not because anyone caused a scene, but because no one knew how to respond.
Should they clap? Laugh?
Look away? Pretend it was sweet?
Or admit it felt off? And that's when the real talk reportedly began. Not on social media, not in tabloids, but quietly among guests after the reception. People asking each other the same question in hushed voices. Was that supposed to happen? Because the original schedule, the one shared with staff and performers, had a very specific highlight listed at that exact moment: Brooklyn and Nicola's first dance. A romantic, emotional centerpiece. The kind of memory couples replay forever.
But instead, the moment took a turn no one rehearsed.
What makes this even more interesting is what insiders claim happened right after. According to murmurs from people present, Brooklyn and Nicola didn't look like a couple glowing from a perfect moment. They looked tense,
polite,
smiling for the crowd, but carrying something heavier underneath. And once guests sense tension between a bride and groom on their wedding night, it becomes the only thing people remember. The DJ allegedly noticed Nicola step away shortly after, speaking quietly with someone close to her. Brooklyn, meanwhile, was seen trying to maintain composure, moving from group to group, thanking guests, keeping the night alive like nothing unusual had happened.
But you can't fake energy in a room. People feel it.
And this wasn't the first sign that the wedding had been building pressure behind the scenes. By that point, many guests were already aware of earlier friction: the last-minute dress change, the subtle distance between certain family members, conversations that stopped when others walked into the room, details small on their own, but together forming a pattern no one could ignore. So when that dance happened, it didn't feel random. It felt like the climax of weeks, maybe years, of unspoken tension. Later, according to those familiar with the aftermath, some guests admitted they felt like they had watched a private family dynamic accidentally spill into a public celebration. Not dramatic enough to cause a scene, but personal enough to leave an impression. And for the DJ, this wasn't just another celebrity wedding memory. It was the night he realized this event wasn't as picture-perfect as it would later appear in photos.
Because photos don't show awkward pauses.
They don't show uncomfortable glances. They don't show the way a room's energy can shift in seconds.
But people remember.
And as stories quietly traveled from guest to guest in the days that followed, one thing became clear: that dance wasn't just a dance. It was the moment many started questioning what was really going on behind the Beckham family's carefully polished image. In the days after the wedding, the photos told one story.
Perfect smiles, designer outfits, celebrity guests, a billionaire backdrop.
The kind of images that scream flawless, fairy tale celebration. But for the people who were actually in that room, the memory attached to those photos felt very different. Because once you've felt an awkward moment unfold live, no edited picture can erase it from your mind. And that's when the quiet conversations reportedly turned into something more serious. Guests didn't gossip loudly.
They didn't run to tabloids.
They simply shared the same observation in private: that moment on the dance floor didn't feel right.
Not dramatic.
Not explosive. Just deeply uncomfortable in a way no one could fully explain without sounding like they were overthinking it. But when dozens of people overthink the same moment, it stops being imagination. It becomes a shared experience. According to whispers that later circulated among industry insiders, the DJ himself couldn't shake what he had seen. From his angle, it wasn't about music or timing. It was about body language, facial expressions, the way Brooklyn seemed caught between politeness and discomfort, the way Nicola's excitement appeared to fade into something far more tense. Those details don't show up in wedding videos.
They live only in memory.
And that's where this story becomes bigger than one strange dance.
Because people started connecting dots.
They remembered the tension before the wedding, the dress situation, the subtle distance between family members, the conversations that felt carefully managed,
the energy that never fully relaxed.
Suddenly, that dance felt less like a random moment, and more like a visible crack in a family dynamic that had been carefully hidden for years.
What's even more telling is what happened after. Not publicly, privately.
Brooklyn and Nicola, according to those close to them, later held a quiet vow renewal ceremony without the extended family presence that marked their original wedding. A smaller, calmer event. One that reportedly felt nothing like the high-pressure spectacle of Palm Beach. To some, that spoke louder than any statement ever could. Because couples don't redo wedding moments unless the first one carries a memory they wish they could replace. And while the world continued to admire the official wedding images, insiders quietly acknowledged that the real story of that night wasn't captured by cameras. It was captured by the people standing close enough to feel the shift in the room. Over time, as online discussions resurfaced and observers began re-examining old clips and interviews, this moment started gaining new attention. What was once brushed off as harmless was now being viewed through a very different lens.
Not because someone shouted about it,
but because someone who witnessed it up close finally hinted that there was more to the story than anyone realized. And that's the thing about carefully maintained celebrity images. They rely on everyone in the room agreeing to pretend certain moments never happened.
But memories don't disappear. They wait.
And sometimes, all it takes is one person from the sidelines, someone who had nothing to do with the family, nothing to gain, and a perfect view of the stage, to remind people that what looks perfect in photos can feel very different in real life. Because for the DJ, this wasn't just a song choice gone wrong.
It was the moment he realized this wedding wasn't remembered for the vows.
It was remembered for the silence that followed the music, and now the question isn't whether that moment happened. The question is why so many people who were there still remember it so clearly, while the public was shown a completely different version of the night. Because when a room full of witnesses quietly agrees that something felt off, that's not gossip.
That's a shared memory. So what really went down on that dance floor?
Was it an innocent misunderstanding that guests overanalyzed? Or was it a rare, unscripted glimpse into family tension that cameras could never capture? And if one small moment at a wedding could leave this kind of impression on dozens of people, what else has been carefully kept behind the curtain for years? This is exactly why stories like this don't fade.
They grow. They resurface.
They make people look at old pictures, old interviews, old moments with completely new eyes.
Because sometimes the real drama isn't loud. It's quiet, subtle, uncomfortable, and unforgettable. What do you think really happened that night? Did guests misread the situation, or did they witness something they were never meant to see? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
And if you want more deep dives into the moments celebrities hope you never question, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because the next story might be even bigger than this one.